I think he speaks for everyone when he says that. Curry got an MRI last night. We're still waiting for the results. Missing Steph has, of course, always been an issue for Golden State. Since Jimmy Butler got there, for whatever this is worth, they've been much better without Steph. They're actually plus 60 in over 300 minutes when Steph is off the floor. Before his arrival, they had been minus 90 without Steph. So obviously, Jimmy Butler makes a difference, Monica. But the key here is pretty simple. I mean, yes, with Steph, the Warriors are whatever it is we've been talking about for a while. Without Steph, clearly, all that playoff stuff becomes irrelevant. It doesn't look like we're going to wind up having to have that conversation.
Yeah, no, hopefully this is not anything that is that intense, but there is no doubt that the combination of Jimmy Butler and Stephen Curry has brought this team a new life. When you look at the last 15 games, for sure, they're averaging 10 steals. They're top rated in terms of defensive rating. They've been really effective on both sides of the ball. Now, without Steph, previously, there was no one else that could draw two. Jimmy Butler is still capable of drawing two, but we'll see what that looks like, because without Steph, you're sort of reverting back to what he had in Miami.
So, Bobby, this obviously is a moment for Jimmy Butler to take over and put this team on his shoulders if he needs to. They are currently 1.5 games ahead of both the Clippers and the Timberwolves in that race to stay out of the play-in.
Yeah, I think certainly Butler will lead the way, but Greeny, I think the X factor here, even if Curry has to miss some time, is the offensive version of Draymond Green. Last night, shoots 5 for 14 from 3, 21 points. Previously, 1 of 11 from 3 in the past 3 games, and teams are daring him to shoot the ball. If he's making it from the perimeter, they can sustain this even if Curry's going to be out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm looking up the numbers here. Draymond took 14 threes last night. So sustain is really the key here, right? I mean, that's what they need to do. They need to, we've used this expression with the Lakers without LeBron. They need to tread water until they get their star back.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is you got to look at who their opponents are coming up. The Raptors, I don't know if you want to call the Raptors in a full-on rebuild, but they're not necessarily contending this year, and that's no secret. They're getting ready to go on the road. The Hawks have they've been dealing with a bunch of injuries. They've been in and out. The Heat is obviously going to be an emotionally charged game. The Pelicans are sitting in the bottom of the Western Conference as well, and the Spurs just knocked off the Knicks the other night. So it starts to get tricky and really intense when you look at that April 1st, starting with some of those Western Conference teams that they're going to be vying for positioning with.
And I'll make it as clear as we can make it. We have no idea how injured Steph is, and there's every reason to believe he's going to be fine and back relatively quickly. Remember, he rested the other day. Just this week began, Bobby, with Steve Kerr talking about how exhausted Steph was and needing a break. He gets the day off. They still find a way to win that game, and now he goes down here yesterday. Quick final thought on the Warriors, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I do think it's sustainable. I think what you've seen with Butler, and listen, if they didn't do the Jimmy Butler trade, this team was dead in the water with Steph Curry, without. He is basically elevated. He's made role players into starters, and he's made starters into top starters here. And as I said, even if Steph Curry is out for a few games, this is sustainable. They just got to stay in 6. They can't fall back in the standings, but they got Minnesota and the Clippers right behind them.
All right, riding a cable car up and down the hills of the city, right? That's what the Warriors season has been like. They started off 12-3, the best record in the West. However, it went downhill pretty fast. The Warriors went 13-23 in their next 36 games, falling to below 500 multiple times. But now they're getting back. 13-2 since February 8th. So let's get out and run, brought to you by Samsung, to show you how this Golden State team has surged back up the standings. The Warriors have been a completely different team since Jimmy Butler made his debut on February 8th. Over that stretch, he's missed only 1 game. Golden State is 13-1 when he is in the lineup. Now, they have been particularly hot as of late, winning a season-high 8 straight games. That's propelled them to being 10 games over 500 for the first time all season. And of course, the Warriors capped off this run with a 26-point win over the Kings on Thursday, their 5th 20-point win since Butler arrived. And in that victory, Steph, he made 2 3-pointers and became the first player to make 4,000 threes in NBA history. And to boot, he did it on his birthday. So, Bob, you've had a first-hand look at so many of those 3-point buckets. Can you just put into perspective this milestone for Steph Curry?
You know, look, everybody appreciates him, as they should. Stephen A. has got a good term called box office. I'm not sure anybody embodies that more than this guy. Everybody that's played basketball or watched basketball wishes they could take the shots he takes and make the shots he makes. There is no bad shot for Steph Curry. There really isn't. When he was with the Warriors, when I was there, I remember asking a coach one time, Malik, I said, was that a good Curry took some crazy shot, and he grabbed me. He goes, there is no bad shots for him. And the fact that he's doing it for as long as he's done it, will that record be broken? I don't know. But he was the one that began this three-point barrage, and he has that label deservedly. And to see him hit that record, happy for him, happy for everything he's accomplished.
That's it?
I could do more.
I mean,
I'm trying to be fair.
For a guy that got you 4 championships.
Okay, thank you. I texted him on his birthday. I said thank you for everything.
Let me take over.
Sorry,
First of all,
Stephen,
well, he's busy.
First of all, Stephen, you talked about grit. Let me give a shout out to my Ubuntu brother, Tony Allen, who getting his jersey retired down there in Memphis. I got real love for him. Right. That's number one.
He deserves it. Yeah.
Number 2, Steph Curry is the greatest point guard of all time. Greatest point guard of all time. We talk about those 4,000 points and it impacting his legacy, right? Think about what it did to the league. It changed the NBA. It changed basketball forever. You talk about these guys that wish they could take these shots, these kids that wish they. Well, I'm actually in the gym watching these.
But I'm not sure that's
trying to take those shots, Bob. And when you think about it, when you think about Steph, he's one of the most skilled players to ever play the game of basketball. Already the best shooter to ever play the game of basketball. Top 5 in handles, right? And when it comes to finishing at the basket, but let me read this to y'all. Steph Curry, okay? There are only 2 players to win an Olympic gold medal, multiple MVPs, multiple NBA titles, and multiple scoring titles. That's Steph and Jordan.
But it's not just his uncanny ability to shoot the ball, Perk. When we're talking about this team currently, how else does he affect the game, his gravitational pull, if you will?
Well, I mean, you know, like, it's crazy to say, but sometimes he's a decoy on the floor. And just watch this tape. First of all, this is a playoff-type defense. They are face guarding him. We don't even want you to touch the ball. Okay, you talk about his movement, great screen by, Draymond Green, great awareness by Jimmy Butler. But watch Steph. He catches the ball. His guy's fighting to get over the screen. And then you have Malik Monk, who forgets his guy, Moses Moody, to say, I'm going trap. And look at Moses Moody. All the time in the world. This is the benefit of playing with a great and the all-time great shooter and a guy that got 4,000 made.
Yes, but as a champion and somebody that's knowledgeable and an exceptional basketball analyst, I might add, you don't have a license to cheat the audience the way that you just did. If you're going to make that statement about Steph Curry, at least have the decency to specify why. We're looking at his greatness. You want to call him the greatest point guard to ever live when Magic Johnson is right in this city, a 5-time champion, the greatest facilitator the world has ever known on the basketball court, and you're going to usurp somebody over him. You would at least need to explain why. If you listen to the Eddie Johnsons and others, professional guys got talk on the NBA Today and all this other, not NBA Today, I'm sorry, but NBA Radio and all of this other stuff. You listen to them talk about Magic Johnson being a facilitator, getting others involved. That quintessential description of a point guard will belong to Magic Johnson. When you talk about impact from the point guard position, because you got to keep your head on a swivel, because you got to guard this brother the second he steps past half court, because he can shoot from 30, 40, 50, because he's sending guys to the hospital needing oxygen masks, because his conditioning is just sublime. All of those different things would point to Steph Curry validating what you said about him. To leave those things out and to just throw out there the greatest point guard ever, when Magic Johnson is still alive in this city, right down the road, is sacrilegious. You explain better next time. That's all I'm saying.
Actually, their schedule, Molly, is a little bit favorable, S.A. Good morning. I don't think it's the end of the world. The thing we have not really discussed about the Warriors' ascent is how good they've been on defense with the addition of Jimmy Butler. And perhaps it has been discussed by some. But as you look ahead at their schedule, the next, four games on the road? I think they should be all right. The Heat obviously have been in the depths of despair since Jimmy left. That's obviously going to be emotional. The Pelicans, Spurs, all teams that are looking ahead to next season. Hawks could be a little interesting, but I'm not too concerned about that. And so if he needed to rest, I'm okay. This is a team that in the last 15 games, they have the best defensive rating in the league. They're averaging like 10 steals a game. And Jimmy Butler, as we know, is someone who is accustomed to putting a team on his shoulders should he need to. I don't think that they can withstand too many more injuries, so knock on wood and hope everybody stays well, but I'm not too concerned about this. The tricky thing is looking at those standings and trying to hold their position. But I think they should be okay for the next 4.
They should be okay. They should win at least 3 of them. But the flip side to that, Eminem, is that they have to be concerned because they're 2 games behind the Grizzlies, but they're 1.5 games ahead of the Clippers. Now, why does that matter? If you look at the Golden State Warriors record this season, they're 0-3 against the Clippers. They're 0-3 against the Lakers. They're 0-2 against the Rockets. And so when you think about seedings, it matters because those are teams they haven't necessarily had success against. They've got winning records against, ironically, against the Thunder and the Rockets, the top 2 seeds in the Western Conference, but they've struggled against the others. So you have to take that into consideration because the likelihood is that you're going to face one of the others before you face the one of the 2 seed. And that's what I'm looking at right now in terms of their positioning. Steph Curry being out, Jimmy Butler said it best. We're not going to be able to turn the ball over. We can't commit a bunch of fouls because the guy that can erase all of our problems would be out. So it definitely puts an inordinate amount of pressure on them. He can handle it. Draymond can handle it. Can Kuminga handle it? Can Podziemski handle it? Can Moody handle it? Etc. That's going to be the question mark. It can be very, very interesting to say the least, no doubt.
Good position because although the Golden State Warriors have had a couple of wins and losses over the last 5, they definitely are still in a better position now that they have Jimmy Butler than compared when they didn't have him and they still had Andrew Wiggins. Now, as you all know, when it comes to the Golden State Warriors, right now they do currently rank 6th in the Western Conference as of making this video. Now, they are only 1 game behind 7 or 1 game in front of 7th. So because of that, there's definitely in a very, very difficult situation where the Warriors need to continue to win and continue to win at will if they want to avoid the play-ins. Now, when it comes to the Golden State Warriors, they do have a record of 41-31 as of making this video. And when we look at some of the games that they've had in the past, yes, they have played without Curry due to the fact that he did suffer an injury, but I do believe that this Golden State Warriors team definitely still has enough to be able to get it done. Now, when it comes to the matchup between Warriors and Heat, obviously it was going to be a heated matchup as Jimmy Butler was having his first time returning to Miami, or, you know, the Miami Heat team facing off against them. And when it comes to this game, although they did actually end up getting blown out, I definitely don't see it being that big of an issue. Obviously, they were without Curry, but you definitely saw in this game there were a lot of players that did have a little bit of a cold streak. Moses Moody didn't shoot so well. He only shot 3 from 13. We also had Jimmy Butler, who did do pretty decently at 5 from 12. Also, other players like Brandon had 6 from 16 and also went 2 from 6 from the 3. So it wasn't really their greatest shooting night, and those times just happened. We saw them have a 39% field goal percentage and a 23% three-point percentage at that. So because of that, their field goal percentage compared to Miami had a field goal percentage of 55% and also shot 68% from the three-point line. So obviously, you know, the Miami Heat did play well, but when it comes to the Warriors, it definitely doesn't, you know, worry me that much because I think the Warriors are still in a very, very good position. When you look at the other loss that they did have against Atlanta, because Steph Curry wasn't there, yes, they did end up losing that game, but it was a little bit more closer. They did only lose by 9 points in that matchup. But they have come off just a great win streak, you know, where they actually had 7 games in a row, lost to Nuggets, 2 games in a row, and then as I'm making this video, 2 also losses in a row. So, you know, I definitely do see that they have the capability to stick to their word that Draymond Green did say during All-Star break, which was they can win an NBA championship. If they remain healthy, they could definitely get it done. And they definitely have shown that when Steph isn't injured and when Jimmy Butler plays and all the other great players play for this Warriors team. And I don't really see it being too big of an issue, especially due to the fact that Steph is still expected to return, even though he did, you know, suffer a slight injury. It is said that when it comes to the Golden State Warriors that, you know, they are definitely looking very, very well, but they can definitely end up in the play-ins if they don't continue their streak and continue to start winning games. Now, obviously, we are getting closer to the end of the season when it comes to actually, you know, this team. They only actually have 10 games left. So I do believe they need to win probably around 60 to 70% of those games if they want a proper opportunity to stay in that 6th spot and avoid play-ins at that. But when it comes to this, I do believe the Warriors have the capability. When you look at their current current matchup, you could actually see them face off against a pretty decent team, which would be the Denver Nuggets at this point. So it would definitely be a great matchup. Warriors have shown it time and time again that they can get it done. They did most recently lose to the Nuggets, but I definitely see that changing due to the fact that when it comes to playoff time, it is definitely a different ball game. So the Warriors have all the tools to be able to get it done. Steph Curry is expected to still come back in order to finish off the season. It isn't said when, however, it'll definitely be on the cards. But where I do see the Golden State Warriors have lacked ever since losing Steph Curry is definitely someone to run the offense. Although Jimmy Butler is a great player, he hasn't really been that much of a great offensive threat out there. He tends to really thrive off being the second option and being able to get those sneaky buckets when needed the most. So could it be Jimmy Butler? Could it be Moses Moody or even Jonathan Kuminga? But someone needs to step up for this team to be able to push them into the actual limelight and secure themselves enough wins to get into a playoff spot. So because of that, I definitely see that the Golden State Warriors have the capability to do that as of right now, but they will need to continue to push forward and push forward at will. So can they pull it off? When we look at also, what we have seen over the last couple of games, Warriors are currently ranked very high defensively. They actually rank in the top 10 in points, rebounds, and assists allowed. So the defense has definitely improved. And like mentioned before, defense wins championships. And that's why we definitely see that happening coming into this game. So it's definitely a great time to keep an eye out for the Golden State Warriors because they can definitely get a great win out of this if they continue to push forward and push forward at will.